Welcome to the VR Gamescast. Hello, everyone. Hello. We are live every Thursday. I'm Zeena. I'm going to be your host, and with me is Jamie Feltham.
Hello. I'm going to change it up. Airlink works brilliantly. Whoever did Airlink, you're the best. You're the best person at Facebook. That's well done, you. I give you a raise.
Was it the CTO who just left after your many rants, and then he was like, "Damn it, Jamie, you just hate Facebook, so I'm gonna leave."
Can we talk about your pronunciation of rants then?
Rants.
Your many rants.
Rants.
Oh, out here on the farm with my many rants on the ranch.
It's one of those words where I've never. I avoid trying to say it out loud. Anyway, welcome everyone. We're not alone. We're not alone here, just kind of chatting away to ourselves. Joel Matthews thought that was funny. I'm just never going to say that word ever again. Anakazi, welcome. I'm so glad you're not cutting your grass. I think you were the one who said you weren't going to cut your grass. Adam Hassel, the absolute boy. There's Don, Sidebook VR. Welcome back. Very, very happy to have you. Carl Parker, the Lil Shadow, Good Green, and Gamer One is also with us. Thank you guys for joining us. We love having you here. Smash Reality, what the heck? Every word you both pronounce is weird. Nah.
That's because you say words like aluminum. Smash Reality. It's aluminium, all right, internet. It doesn't matter where you're from. The world needs to come together on this and start saying aluminium.
Aluminium. And Dave Station VR is also with us. What is up, Dave?
Hey, Dave Station. Good to see you.
Special shout out to the people, to the real boys, who are our members and they support us, and girls. One that I know of. Anyway, starting off with, I don't know if he's in the chat or not, but Sexy Bicycle, thank you for being a member. There's also bring. Tomesso, Devin Miller, Matthew May, Rick Tet, Robert Quinones, Steve Evans, Smash Reality, Adam Hartzell, John Wester, and Dominique Fruchtman. Consider supporting us either by becoming a member or super chat. Super chat's always fun. Or buy a t-shirt from down below if you're watching YouTube. Anyway, we've got a couple of stories to get through.
Go Green says that they think rants is how it's produced. So I'm just gonna Google this, and then I'm not produced, pronounced, sorry. Oh no. We're going real down into the rabbit hole here. Why is there the video on how to say rant a minute long?
Do you know why? I kind of get it mixed up with like aftermath instead of aftermath.
Sorry, this is just an advert. Go away. I don't want to get Google Premium, whatever it's called.
Anyway, we've got a couple of stories to get through before we get into our reviews of The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, Aftershock, and Rhythm of the Universe, Ionia. But first, we want to talk about Unplugged. Are you gonna do this?
Rant. I think that's definitive proof there. Thank you very much, YouTube channel Emma saying. Thank you very much for that. Okay, definitive.
All right, cheers.
What are we talking about? What is VR?
We're talking about Unplugged. And whether or not it will actually work. So you may or may not have seen our preview over at UploadVR.com. And we also revealed that Weezer, Ozzy Osbourne, and The Offspring are part of the game's lineup. All very big names, all very exciting. And today, I think some of you guys have some of you guys are trying to pronounce names and such. Some of you guys may have seen the news that has just broke via UploadVR.com. It's the release date for the game. I'm totally right. I'm not breaking anything right now.
If you are, then the website's breaking it too. So
okay, cool. Well, the release date for Oculus Quest is October 21st of this year, and for PC VR users, you can expect it later on this year, depending on whether or not you have hand-tracked controllers. So that's the Index, right?
Or yeah, well, so Index, and then also I think it's meant to work with like hand-tracked modules. Like, I guess like the HTC Vive probably has a hand-tracked module. It's got a module for everything else, so probably something like that as well, I would imagine.
Well, there you go. Which I only learned of the PC VR aspect of it recently, which is very exciting. Unplugged is, of course, our upload access title for this month, meaning we shower it with love, and we really look into it. We get exclusive, juicy details, and next week is the last week, and it's a banger. So we're going to have the full track listing, and we're going to have a live studio Q&A with Mr. Henderson himself, aka Mr. Guitar Hero. We've already spoken to him. We've already got that's not him, that's another guy.
No, this is Satchel from Steel Panther. We'll talk about him in a second.
That is Mr. Steel Panther. We'll talk about him a little bit. Anyway, Jamie, do you think Unplugged will work?
Well, I mean, me and you have both played it now, and Harry, who is going to eventually be reviewing it next month, I think, has played it as well. And we were all it was an interesting one going into the access month for Unplugged, because there was this kind of like apprehension about like whether or not we were going to cover a game that would end up like being a bit of a mess when it released. And I frankly was on the side of thinking, yeah, this thing's going to hit and it's going to have a really cool, solid idea, but it's just not going to come through in this. Because, you know, like you watch us on YouTube, you see these things, they fly off. They, you know, the fingers don't always like completely replicate what's going on. The occlusion, there you go. The occlusion messes with them real bad and everything like that. Like, it's really, really cool tech, but like it's rarely ever completely stable. And I played it for a couple of hours now. You've played it for maybe like half an hour or something. Harry's got
don't
like
out me like that, because I'm gonna say something really drastic.
Oh yeah, sure, but I mean, no, I still think that's a valid thing to say when you say it, because you just got really into it. Anyway, we all really have enjoyed it, and I've been really surprised at how solid it's been coping with the hand tracking. Like, first of all, there is no occlusion, so you don't have to worry about all the kind of horrid flying off stuff that I'm replicating right now and hands disappearing. And it works like Guitar Hero in that you have to match notes that are colors to the corresponding fingers, and your fingers are lit up with those colors as well. But they focus more on like chord shapes, pretty simple chord shapes. So you might just be like, you might have all four fingers down, then you have to lift a finger, or maybe you've got to lift two fingers. And like it never gets like super technical to the point where it probably wouldn't be able to keep up, because even as I like waggle my fingers right now, I know it's not completely following what I'm doing. And this just kind of ended up working a bit more than I thought it was going to. And I quite like the track list of what we got to play in the demo. They announced more songs today, but the songs were not very well known.
We didn't know of them.
No, I'd never heard of many of them. But you know, I mean, I guess they've been chosen probably as well because they are still good, you know, guitar exercises. They probably just don't cost a bomb to license.
But we also made the point earlier today that Guitar Hero, I learnt a bunch of stuff from Guitar Hero. Like,
yeah, that's true.
What the hell is Dragon Force? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
we'll talk about Dragon Force.
Every music game set list before has its fair share of like filler, right? Like the songs that you've never really heard before. So that's true. That's a very good point. But when you get into the groove, it just feels really, really good, right? And so what Zeena was wanting to say was that within about okay, go on then.
Unplugged is the VR killer app. That's it. I'm saying it. It is one of my favorite VR games by far. It's up there with Demio. I was utterly blown away from it. Not blown away from it.
That sounds like a bad thing. Oh, I don't want to be near you anymore.
No, buy it. I fell in love with it. It was just so fun. I wasn't good at it at all, by the way, and you will not be good at it. Jamie, you kind of sucked at it as well when you first started.
How dare you?
It's just the same as Guitar Hero, where you don't want to jump into normal, or like if you've never played it before, you want to start off with, you have to start off with easy.
Yeah.
Take it easy, you need to
Slow
start
ride,
off with
yeah.
that. And and then you get into normal and so on. But as Jamie was saying, these fingers right here, they're not very you can't really count on them. So I found myself going like slightly, I don't know, a bit curled up, trying to keep my fingers like all
Did
within
you get a little
the
bit of cramp? I got a bit of cramp.
No.
Like while I was playing. Oh, okay, I did.
No, I was just kind of like, you can kind of understand how I'm sat right now. I was like that, just trying to keep my fingers within the cameras.
Oh yeah, I made a joke that you were doing ukulele, unplugged ukulele.
Yeah.
Hello to Lucky Do, Sir Swoosho, Bass Pilot, Game Tag. Good to see you, pal. This is not Ben Stiller. This is on the screen here right now. We have Satchel from the band Steel Panther, who, if you haven't listened to Steel Panther, they're a not safe for work band, so don't go putting it on the speakers in the office or anything. But just maybe, quickly Spotify them right now, and you'll very quickly begin to understand the kind of comedic area the band occupies.
I mean, yeah.
Little...
And well, the thing is, even if you don't Google it now, when you start playing, or if you start playing Unplugged, he is your guide, and their humor is just going to be like shoved in your face, and that's it. It's very crude, and it's you've just got to kind of loosen up. I think it's the right tone for the game it is.
Yeah, I think it's the right tone, but I was also surprised having a publisher like Vertigo on board. Obviously, to some degree, having them on board is what's enabled them to like contract Satchel to be in the game anyway. But I was still surprised that they have cursing in there and a bunch of innuendos and stuff like that, because you would think that if this catches on, this could be potentially quite big with kids as well. But I guess that's not going to. This guy isn't going to stop that from happening either way, really, is it? So you can just embrace it.
No, absolutely not. The tiniest, like the thing that would not even, like, it doesn't matter to me in terms of how I would personally score this game or anything. There was just one tiny bit in the intro where this guy addresses you and he refers to you as he. So I was like, oh, he's not talking to me. I'm playing like my older brother's Guitar Hero secretly, and he just referred to me as he.
Yeah, that's such a shame, because I didn't notice, obviously, because I'm a he. And so
yeah, exactly.
When he was talking to me and he said he, it just didn't trigger until you said it, and I was like, oh man, that is such an oversight, and I wish I'd thought about that and picked up on that myself.
And then some of the jokes are obviously just male based, and it's like,
yeah, that's true.
I can appreciate this, but I'll just wait till it's over. It's okay.
I mean, there is that, which is a good point. And Bass Pilot, it's out on Quest on October 21st, and then it's coming to PC later down the line, still this year, but later. The other part of it is just, and what I really don't know yet is there going to be a technicality and complexity to each song that really does inspire that Guitar Hero size, or not sized, but level of community around it, right?
Well, we've already seen that, haven't we, with like the Ozzy Osbourne song, for example?
Yeah, sure, but those are free songs, and like we were saying, then they announced 6 more today, and none of them are very like big. Like some of them might end up being like in
fun.
That Beat Saber kind of way, they might catch on, but they're not like big names to draw you in straight away. And I don't even necessarily mean just the size of the songs. I literally just mean like, within those tracks, are people going to start, like people are going to get way more technical with it than I did in 2 hours of gameplay. Is there going to be the depth there to support going back and knowing what you did wrong the first time, and knowing how to move your fingers properly, and knowing that you can trust the technology to really, really top the high score leaderboards? Is that going to be in there? Haven't had enough time with it yet to know about that, really.
Yeah, exactly. I've just picked up on the Onikazi jokes in the chat here because I said they were mail based. He then
Oh, I
said
get it.
postal
Ha, ha,
based,
ha, ha, ha.
mail based.
Let's just change this to a pronunciation podcast.
The
Let's
Mali
talk about-
based jokes did not hit me well. Why isn't anyone talking about Lon? Why isn't anyone talking about Lon?
Because
Jamie?
Anthony Jones has just asked why anyone isn't talking about Lon, because we haven't seen Lon in ages, and
It's not out
Anthony
yet, is it?
Jones says that they plan to release it this year, but I haven't heard from them in a year or so. Like, I can check up on that, but sure, if it's coming out, I'll talk about it. Just don't know about that.
We've got a good 10 games that have said they're coming out this year, and we've had nothing since like the beginning of the year.
So when it comes to you calling Unplugged a killer app,
Yep.
does that mean when it comes out, you think you're gonna like regularly be playing and like trying to master tracks? And
I think it's something that I'd go back to. So Demio, I haven't gone back to that much because that's a group based game.
Yeah.
This is more solo, and I think it'd be kind of like back in the day Guitar Hero, where I'd spend a couple days out of the week just trying to master one track. Like my first medium track was My Name is Jonas by Weezer. And I was freaking happy about that. So that was a perfect, like, I got everything. And not that's really like impressive, but it was a great feat. So I would like to get like, a perfect all the way through on one of these. But like you said, it might be impossible with the kind of technology. But the reason why I say it's a killer app is because so many games it's like, oh yeah, but VR right now isn't right for it, whatever. This is proving that VR right now is good for, some games, and you can play it. It's not completely like it's not janky at all. It's actually very of course this is a preview build as well. But from what I've seen of it, it's very polished, and there is the possibility of going in and trying to master it to then get perfects on everything. It's finding a groove with it. And the great thing with it is you can adjust your guitar in, virtual reality as well. So I think I need to find my groove with it rather than like, being all curled up here. I think I'll find my groove. But that's why I think it's a killer app, because it's using the technology and it's not making me think, oh well, in the future when it's better,
Yeah, and I guess you're right that, like, I mean, the really good thing about it is that when it does hit its stride, which is like, very crunchy riffs that are very melodic, and you're getting right in there, and mainly in the choruses is what I found. Like at the start of a song, like at the start of Saying So, when you can pick out those very specific notes with your ear, that's less when you feel like you're playing, but right in the middle of the bow now the chorus, that's when you really feel like you're hitting it. And that is quite a VR-ish feeling, because there you do have this, I'm on a stage, people are looking at me, I'm gonna like kind of keep nodding my head to this, maybe I'm gonna do a couple of headbangs or whatever. And you get really, really into it. And I think if they can really capitalize on that, and you can go back and start getting that kind of groove right the way across the song. And also if there's a really good like campaign mode, which I think, they've kind of teased will be there, a career mode where you move to bigger venues and stuff like that.
That'd be
if
awesome.
That's in there
That's
as
perfect.
well. Yeah, that could be really, really cool. So it's just a relief to be able to talk about it this way. I was so anticipating we'd go in and we'd be sitting in this podcast right now being like, oh, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it?
It's
like,
okay.
yeah, like it's fine, but I couldn't get through a single song without messing up completely. But that's just not the case. It works. It's really, really solid.
Creamy Farts cool. Asks when the update is out. It's on the 21st of October.
No. That's
oh, the update. Sorry, for Saints
Dead.
and Sinners.
It should be coming out today at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know the specific time, but
sorry, I was concentrating on Creamy Farts too much.
Won't we all? But yeah, no, that's an interesting one. Dave Station brought up another one that released recently called Beat Arena, which is a Konami thing, which I haven't actually tried out yet.
Yeah.
And he was just pointing out that no one's giving that much coverage, and that is true. I think one of the reasons that hasn't got much coverage from us is they just kind of surprise released that one. Like
And
it was
it's
just
all
one of
in
those surprise,
Japanese?
it's out. Yeah, which could be cool. It would be cool. Like I would have liked to have checked that out, but it was just kind of released out of nowhere,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I've got a million other things to be doing right now. So I'd like to go
Our
back
good
and try it at
friend,
some point.
Sidebook VR, thank you so much for your super
Yay,
chat.
thanks,
Really,
Sidebook.
really appreciate it. Sidebook VR says, heard about AI chatbot VR app Replica on AppLab. Voice recognition works well with broken English VR. VR aspects are still early days, but promising. Hashtag VR secretary. Secretary.
Temporary secretary.
I haven't actually heard of that, to be honest.
No, it sounds interesting.
Yeah,
but
that sounds awesome.
No, I haven't heard about it. That is a cool thing. We should go check out.
So the fact that it can pick up the words that you're saying well, even if you don't think you're speaking English all too well, is a great application for sure. That's definitely something on Mondays. Those guys would have a ball talking about that. Get Heaney talking about AI chatbot stuff.
One day it will come together with Unplugged, and you'll be able to go up to the microphone in any language and be like,
Yeah.
I can't hear you. And then you'll have the full experience. But yeah, in summary, good. But what, we're like a month away from its launch. We'll have a full review next month, hopefully. And we've got the full track list. I'm hoping for a few more bangers when we reveal the full track list. I don't know it yet, but I'm hoping for a couple more high stakes one. You have to assume that if it comes out and everyone reacts to it in the same way that we have, which is very positively, and they might not, like other people might not be into it, which is totally fine. You have to assume that if that happens, then we're going to start getting into the kind of Beat Saber realm of DLC and bigger names coming fairly regularly, hopefully, because it's just nice to have a music game for my type of music.
Yeah,
in
instead
VR.
of it's so true. Like even when it comes down to I forget what it's called right now, Box VR.
Yeah, well, Box VR is just all entirely.
It's mixed,
brand
isn't
of stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
But still, it doesn't scratch that itch, of you want to hear songs that and you actually genuinely love, and that's what we're gonna get onto with the first news story if we want to move on to that.
Yeah. That's next week we'll be in here with Marcus Henderson talking about the game, and please look forward to it.
Please look forward to it. That'll be live, of course. We'll get that all up. And again, check out UploadVR.com for everything that we've talked about with Unplugged. Especially the last interview that we did with Marcus Henderson. Very cool, very interesting. Anyway, enough of Unplugged. Let's move on to the news. So we've just got a couple of standout news stories from this week. Starting with Beat Saber. It's topped the EU PSVR charts for a whole year. But technically, that could be more because I think Vader Immortal just bumped it off temporarily, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it could keep going, but it's only just.
But that was back in August 2020.
Yeah, so it's been a whole year now.
Yeah,
it went
but then
from
before that
from
was Beat
September
Saber at the top.
through to August. Yeah. It had I think there was like 2 months of Vader Immortal being on top, but obviously that you no one counts like the gap in the middle. It has to be a combo. It has to be sequential.
It has to be. Yeah. But if Vader Immortal didn't exist, anyway.
Yeah.
The US charts aren't that far behind either. And of course, they just released a new DLC pack for. Oh my god, it's a real podcast for pronunciation. I have no idea how to say her name. Billie Eilish.
I think it's Billie Eilish, isn't it?
Billie Eilish. I always want to say Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish.
And obviously keep in mind, on PSVR, they don't have multiplayer yet, which has been out for over a year on Quest and PCVR, and it has been promised. However, Jamie, Do you think anything at all is going to beat Saber? Beat the Saber
on on
PSVR?
on PSVR? It's not that there aren't good games coming before the headset winds down. It's just I don't see anything really topping it. It's got to that point now. I made you I asked you to change your script earlier, where you were going to ask me if Beat Saber was the GTA 5 of VR, and I said, well, let's phrase it a little differently. But I know what you mean in that.
All right, let's just shout out the script, change it.
I just you get to looking at the charts month in, month out, and you're like, oh yeah, it's GTA 5, and now it's like, oh yeah, it's Beat Saber, and it is insane that it just keeps selling this well, because it was like way earlier in the year that that there was a story that it sold 4 million copies. So we're probably at this point now, like that's several more months of being at the top of the PSVR charts, and then Quest coming back on sale and everything like that. Probably starting to push 5 million by now, if not over. The DLC packs are getting bigger, and more often. So we had Skrillex a couple of weeks ago, and now we've got Billie on first name terms with her, because I don't know her second name, this week, and presumably that means there's probably more quite soon, because Facebook Connect's coming up, and there's usually some sort of Beat Saber announcement around that as well. But in terms of anything beating it, I guess maybe after the fall, if it's really, really, really good, could maybe take a month from it.
It might be a Vader kind of situation again, but someone agreed that it is the GTA 5 of VR. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris Richardson did.
It's just that it's this big pronunciation behemoth of a game that will just never be shifted, permanently. How the heck are you going to shift it? Like it's the number one game that people, when they start VR, they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of this thing, Beat Saber, and they will instantly, that's their number one, like day one purchase, isn't it? For many VR players.
Do you think this is going to be the really, really interesting test with Facebook and Beat Saber? And we've probably talked about this on the podcast before, but I just don't know. Do you think it's going to come to PSVR 2?
Yes. What Beat Saber?
Yeah.
110%. It's going to come
110%. A competing VR hardware provider will put Beat Saber on PSVR 2.
Yes. Oh, are you joking?
Okay. Right. So give it to the carrier pigeon and send it off. It's well known.
Of course it would. Why wouldn't it?
Because at some point Facebook are going to want to say, like, don't get a PSVR
because of Facebook.
2. Yeah.
Because of the Zuck. I didn't.
How many percentiles did that detract from 110%?
About 5.
About 5. So we're now at 105%. The fact that a competing platform owns it only detracted 5% chance of it coming to PSVR 2.
What the hell are they going to do? Like, how's it going to benefit them to just stop it from going? Like, they're getting all of their sales.
PSVR 2.
Sorry?
People buy a Quest 2 instead of a PSVR 2.
Nah, that wouldn't be the deciding factor.
My only thing, I also think it actually will come, and I think what's informing my belief there is that
Heaney's come in with a statement upon their acquisition. Beat Games will continue to ship content and updates for Beat Saber across all currently supported platforms. Oh heck, 90% then.
No, you're taking it down another 15.
Currently support. So would they be like, well, PSVR fine, but PSVR 2, nah? Or would they consider the PlayStation Store as the platform rather than the different headsets?
So here's my thing, right? The multiplayer thing with the PSVR version of Beat Saber, even though it's selling ridiculously well, this is kind of weirdly conspicuous at this point of like, I get that it's harder to publish things on this store because Sony has its certain certification processes going on or whatever. But we're talking about a feature that is a year late behind the other platforms by now. And in my mind, the only feasible way you could get away with that is if you're kind of planning a free upgrade with it on PS5, maybe. And it's just complete speculation. I'm sure many people just watching this just said that doesn't make any sense at all, and they're probably right. But to me, that's like, you don't keep stringing people along like this unless eventually you've got some sort of end game, and that's either that it will come to PS4 at some point, and everyone will be like, "Why did that take a year?" Or, "Don't worry, guys, if you've got a PS5, it's a free upgrade." And the multiplayer will be there waiting for you on day one. That's the only thing in my head that's kind of keeping it alive, that maybe it could happen. That and the fact that, apart from the whole exclusivity debate, it would make hella money. Just like, Microsoft owns Minecraft and everything like that, and that still comes to new platforms. Still got PSVR support and everything. So we'll see. I think that will be the first real interesting test of Facebook owning game stuff. And what their intentions with it are, right?
Oh, Facebook sucks, huh? They just took this massive thing away.
Well, I mean, it's exactly the same thing as what Sony's doing. You don't see, Iron Man VR on other platforms or anything like that.
Yeah, but this is the thing that I always bring up. It's different though, isn't it? Facebook is a social media platform. Sony, they,
yeah, they are, but they're in the same business right now.
Yeah, I know. I
kind of get what you mean.
Do
I do kind of get what you mean. I think it more boils down to I like to do my VR playing on a PlayStation. So
yeah,
personally for me, I'm more like, oh, Facebook, stop making these things exclusive. Sony, make these exclusives. But yeah, it's kind of a two-way, one-way argument, really. Yeah, nothing will ever stop Beat Saber, and it will come if it comes to PS5. It'll just keep being the best-selling VR game on PS5 for the PS5's entire life. That's my prediction right now.
$100 bills will turn into $1 million bills.
They don't have those.
Anyway. Moving on. We got a little bit of a poo-poo sandwich here for you about Wanderer. You know what a poop? Well, I'm not going to say the actual term.
I don't want. Just don't continue this line of questioning, please.
It's good, bad, good. So you have to sandwich the poo-poo in the middle.
Okay, I just don't.
Anyway.
I don't want to think about poo in a sandwich right now. I just don't.
The good thing is that we have new gameplay for Wanderer. The bad thing, well, the sad thing, is that it has been delayed from its original Q3 window. But the good thing...
Probably time not to have Satchel in the background anymore. I should probably change that.
Yeah, get out of here, Satchel. What the hell,
thank you for joining us, Satchel.
The good thing, it's still coming out this year, and there's not that much of this year left. So, there's not that long to wait, really. The reason for the delay is, of course, the pandemic, so that's completely understandable. For those of you who are not familiar with Wanderer, it was announced, this is just off the top of my head, it was announced out of the blue within the last year, right? It was during one of the...
the PSVR Uproar guys gave us a first look in April.
Yes.
And then they had like an official PlayStation blog like thingy following on from that in like May or something like that.
So it got announced and... Sorry, go for it.
Well, I was just going to launch into it and just like, this is one of the other games that is coming to PSVR where I do think, maybe that could not knock Beat Saber off the top, but at least start ranking in the top 10 if it works out really, really well, right? Like
for sure.
We both watched the gameplay. I think the gameplay looks quite good. What did you think?
I think it's gorgeous. I think it's utterly gorgeous, and they explain the story a bit during that trailer. That kind of a dev diary, where it's a time travel based puzzler. So I don't know if that, if you summarize it as that, would top an arcade kind of Beat Saber experience.
Yeah.
But the fact that it looks so good and it's gonna be on PSVR, it's also gonna be on PC VR.
Yeah, right? And I think Quest as well. They have the Oculus logo in the trailer, which at this point has to mean Quest, right? Probably doesn't mean Rift. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No.
Here's the thing. So I think we've all been watching Wanderer with quite a keen eye because, like you said, it is gorgeous. And I think a lot of the solutions to the puzzles look pretty good and intuitive with cool interactions, and it just looks overall polished and a great use of VR. My worry with it is that it's being described as by ourselves and as developers as like this escape room style experience, and I think there's kind of this apathy around that genre because so many people have made kind of like not fantastic escape room VR games at this point, right? Because it's the one of the first things your mind runs to is like, oh yeah, I could make a room scale 4-wall escape room game of just finding this, put it all together. So in my mind, I hear escape room, and it's kind of like a turn off. I'm like, yeah, that's not really what I'm after. But when you watch Wanderer, I'm thinking, oh man, this totally understands what makes VR cool. Like you're doing something different in every scene. You're going to these really amazing places, meeting different kinds of people.
Go to the moon.
You go to the moon. And we've all
moon, boys and
wanted
girls.
to. I mean, I've probably been to the moon a million times in VR already,
but not this way.
That's fine, but not yeah. So I'm very, very hopeful for it. I'm cautiously optimistic because again, completely new studio and who knows what could be going on and how long it's going to end up being and everything like that. But yeah, I'm not. The delay is not terrible. Seeing as it's probably still coming out in the next couple of months. I don't know if it's necessarily still this year. I know it's this winter is what they've said, and that could stretch into the January or February.
I thought they said still this year.
Oh, they might have done that. I don't know. I'm inside VR and I can't check.
I don't know. That's fine.
But yeah, it's if you haven't watched anything about this, we've got the 5 minutes of gameplay up on the website right now. Go and look at it, and even if you're like, I'm not into puzzle games, I'm not into escape room games. From what I've been seeing of it, it just seems less like a puzzle game and more like interacting with the worlds, with the tools you have. And I know that sounds weird, but that's kind of what the cool best VR experiences are a lot of the time, right?
Do you know what it reminds me of? It looks like no. It looks like a non-violent Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually. Although you do fire some guns in it, but yeah.
Okay. But you're not like slaughtering people.
A lesser violent.
It's not zombies or whatever the heck. Like.
Yeah.
But you have this little watch guy, called, what's his name? Samuel the Watch. He's literally a watch, and he looks like the little Pringle guy or like the Monopoly guy.
he does like look the big like mustache. Sergeant Pringle. You're right.
Sergeant Pringle's his name.
Yeah, I think so. Oh god, we need
Sergeant
there's
Pringles.
Far too much like Google worthy material coming out of this. I'm pretty sure he's Sergeant Pringle.
Jesus,
if he's not,
Sergeant
I've just embarrassed
Pringle.
myself on a
what
on
the
a
hell is this?
scale
Why would he be a sergeant?
I don't know.
Once you pop, boys, you cannot stop, so you must fire till the end.
I swear it's Sergeant Pringle.
Anyway. Yeah, I think it's Mr. Pringle. He does look a bit Beatlesy.
I want him to be Sergeant Pringle.
All right, he's Sergeant Pringle in this podcast. That's fine. That's okay.
Oh.
No one else correct us in the chat. It's fine. We're okay.
Spoiling my first VR game. I'm making Sergeant Pringle.
Anyway, so yeah, go check that out. We think it looks lovely. We think it looks gorgeous. There are some. Do you know what? What we're going to move on to is the review. Jamie, do you want to do Rhythm of the Universe Ionia, or do you want to get into the meats of it with walking?
I think let's do Ionia first because it is. Cool. I think you were about to say they kind of seem a bit interlocking in some ways, right?
Yeah. So Wanderer looks gorgeous, and it looks like a lot of the mechanics actually follow through with what they say. So in the gameplay, you have to scan your eye, but there's a bunch of like I don't know, vines in the way, so you have to like push it out of the way to then put your face in front of it. However, Jamie, I think you found Ionia was kind of trying to have that type of experience but didn't quite get there.
Yeah, so let me preface this one. Preface. Wow. Let me preface this one with just saying I think this game has real heart and soul, and I think its heart is really in the right place. It's a pro environment kind of vibe of a game, like set on this kind of alien forest. You play as one of these two siblings that are these kind of like weird, kind of looking leafy, funky people.
Disgusting.
If you're, I didn't think the design would be seen as cup of tea, and that's just been confirmed. On the screen, you can see kind of your hand here. You have like this kind of furish hand, and this is your sister who has kind of leaves on her face and stuff. And it's I said in my review that's on the site right now. It's like Fern Gully just without Robin Williamson voicing a Robin Williams in voicing a bat, and that's basically kind of what it is. You go through the jungle, you meet some really fantastic creatures, and you solve some puzzles. And I think it's lovely and original. And like I said, it's got all the goodwill and good intentions in the world. I loved meeting some of these larger than life wildlife designs that you see here. I think the developer ROTU has put real thought into its world, and I think it's very clearly passionate not just about the universe it's created, but also the medium of VR. And I said in my review that it's like a launch window VR game in that it's just so clearly in love with VR that it's like, hey, look at these beasts flying past you, and look at this lovely vista, and you can climb this, and oh, isn't it great to be here? And so it's a like I said, it's a project of tremendous goodwill, and it really has a real warmth to it, which is why it is just such a shame that even as an episodic game to kind of cushion this blow, it just doesn't work that the game is about 45 minutes long and is going to cost about $15. And in that 45 minutes, that a significant chunk of it is just watching other characters talk or movies or anything like that, roughly around a third. So we're talking maybe about half an hour's worth of gameplay in the entire experience. And it's one of those difficult things where you could then go back to like Battlescar and say, well, that's only half an hour. Why do you why does that get off the hook? And it's like, well, this really is pitching itself as a game. It says multiple times in the Steam description it's a game. There's puzzles and everything like that. And even if you were to look at it the other way more favorably and say, no, it's actually more of an experience and that length is okay, it still doesn't explore enough of the mechanics and the storytelling to do something really, really interesting. And that's a real shame given everything they've built, because the puzzles are ridiculously easy and didn't even cause a moment's distraction in my brain. I like completely cut through them. And it's got this kind of like cool musical undercurrent where if you touch a lot of the vegetation in the world, they'll give off like drum beats or something like that. But you might, if you don't go exploring, you won't even really be aware of that element of the game and the ways it's trying to entice you to spend a little longer in its environments. And then there's like the prime example, and I'm glad we've got this screenshot, is this giant tortoise. If you're not if you're listening to us on an audio platform, there's this giant tortoise, and your sister is like, oh, it might let us ride on its back if you stare it in the eyes for long enough and bow for long enough and just stay completely still. It might accept us and allow us to ride on its back. And you think, wow, that's kind of an interesting, cool way to interact with wildlife. It's not your traditional game mechanic, but it's definitely taking VR and thinking about really interesting ways to interact with worlds and, getting your hands muddy with this wildlife, right? But then the story, actually, you're just kind of a special kid that doesn't need to do the bowing and the eyes, and he just lets you pass straight away. And you're like, you were just hitting on something really, really interesting there. And the whole quest is that you're heading into the forest to kind of find this endangered species and save it a bit. And spoilers, eventually, when you get to the end of the quest, any kind of resolving of this issue you do, it's just down to some simple gestures you follow during a cutscene. Not like, again, you can't let you don't comfort an animal or anything like that. You do feed an animal at one point, but that's just putting fruit in an animal's mouth. So I would love to see another episode of this that took some of the ideas it was really hinting at here and really doubled down to really make you feel like you were in this forest and interacting with this wildlife and making cool connections the way you only can in VR. That's just not in this episode. And even though ROTU is doing really championable things with, giving some of its proceeds to charity and stuff, there is just not enough in the first episode of Ionia to really say I can recommend it, which I'm very sad about.
And which platforms is it on?
So it's on. So I should say, actually, that's a good point. So me saying it's gorgeous and lovely and detailed and everything like that, I've only played it on PC so far, but it's also out on Quest and PSVR today. And I haven't tried the Quest and the PSVR versions. I have seen a screenshot of the Quest version, and I was like, "Ooh, maybe I should point out in the review that I've only played it on PC." So, well, we'll see. I'll have updated impressions on that stuff.
So that's slap bang in the middle of our review scale as an okay. It's okay.
Yeah, basically. It's one of those things where I kind of
sorry.
Bless you. I kind of could have gone towards the scale of giving it more of an avoid, but I thought, well, it's a very well-intentioned project. It is beautiful to look at, and it's not like ridden with bugs or anything like that. I mean, apart from literal bugs, but so I didn't want to,
oh my god,
going on it too hard. But I still don't think until there's like a sale or we know there's future episodes that like really flesh it out into a still well-priced full gaming experience, I can't recommend, sadly.
Thank you so much, Sexy Bicycle. I just wanted to say the name. And Sexy
Right.
Bicycle would also like to play Staring Contest Simulator in VR, as would I. So just touching on the fact that you said if there was the promise of future episodes, then you would recommend it better in a better way.
It'd be easier to recommend.
It's the fact that we've got episodic VR games like VR Vader Immortal. We've got the other Star Wars game, Tales from Galaxy's Edge. We've got Jurassic World. All of these. The fact that I kind of feel like we've moved on from that part of VR gaming history where it's like, I promise there's going to be episodic stuff, but VR needs to be better, and if we get the money, we've come into
like Loading Human.
Like Loading Human. I'm surrounded by
PSVR
fire.
Launched PSVR launch title Loading Human. That's I mean, and obviously it's in some ways that's not completely fair comparison because obviously Star Wars is Star Wars and Jurassic World is Jurassic World, and those things only start to get made with the funding already agreed at the end of the day. This is the kind of game that that publishers probably looked at and thought, no way, Jose, right? Like, I do not want to touch the pro environment stuff because it doesn't speak to a large audience. And again, I absolutely admire
large gaming
the developer.
Audience.
Well, yeah. And I admire the developer for going for that angle and sticking to, what it believes in. It's just such a shame. It doesn't result in a easily recommendable first installment in the series.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's stop talking about Ionia there and move on to what loads of you guys are actually really excited about, and as are we. And Jamie's so excited about this. It's kind of rocked his world and changed our whole thought process about the core game. So this is The Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners Aftershock. It's a free DLC for everyone everywhere. And yeah, Jamie, take it away. You love this.
Yeah, I do love it. I if you've been listening to this podcast for the past, well, I don't know how long we've been doing this, like 2 or 3 years maybe now, which is crazy to think about. That I almost every episode bring up Saints and Sinners and Boneworks and Alex in some shape or form, because I really do believe those three form like this brilliant trifecta of exploring what VR can do in gaming. And I think I personally have always put Saints and Sinners at the top of that triangle or that hierarchy, because I think it takes the structure and campaign of an Alex, and it takes the physics and the sandboxiness of a Boneworks, and it finds, even though it's still buggy and it's not as immaculately designed as Alex, it finds that kind of brilliant center point where the world really feels alive and you feel like you're really in it. The thing about Aftershocks is it's actually pretty simple to talk about. It's just endgame content for Saints and Sinners, which is a game that everyone was enjoying so much they kind of didn't really want to be over, even though it was on the longer side of VR games. I think you could get about 15 hours out of the campaign if you were playing it pretty modestly. And there's nothing here that is, drastically new. They try some cool new things with like trip mines, and there's a bit of a change to your flashlight that comes in as well, which introduces some cool twists on just existing locations, existing weapons, existing enemies. So it's all the same. It's still the same playground that it always has been. It's just more of that playground, slightly tweaked in terms of map layouts and enemy placements and stuff like that. But the whole thing about the game is it's such an incredible sandbox that is contextualized through the brilliance of its melee system that actually gives it some challenge. And the systems of, the two human factions in the game, you can either side with them or, make them angry, and that can change the dynamics of if you need to sneak through a level and avoid them, or you can just walk right past and everything like that. All of that just really comes alive in VR, and this is just more of that. It's about probably about 4 or 5 hours more of it, and then I think I'm at the end of it. I have this objective that's like, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like find a thing, and there's no other guidance on finding the thing. So it's like, is the thing like specifically in the homeworld hub, or is it out there somewhere else in the game? And if it is, can I have some hints, because it's huge? So I'm sure some people will find that, and I'll be able to follow up on it later on. But I'm pretty sure that's the end game of it anyway. But yeah, so you take that, and then you take the meat grinder update, and then those are both 2 free updates, and then you go back to the base game, and I think with those 2 things packaged on, I just think this is by quite some distance personally, I just think this is my favorite VR game. Easily, I think. I love Alex. I love Boneworks. I think Demio is fantastic. We've got other things to be excited about. But going back into this, it just felt like such a breath of fresh air after a year of pretty good to quite good to, not so good VR experiences. We were talking last week, we had a discussion about whether it had been a good year for VR content. And so taking that context and going back to Saints and Sinners and just totally having that experience of, this is why this technology is so cool, because when I go to kill a walker, I have to really think about it, or like how I'm going to use the screwdriver. I'm going to have to thrust with intent, or I'm going to have to like wrestle his head, find a patch in the armor I can shoot through that. And I know that all sounds quite horrific in words, but it really is a different, amazing physical experience inside VR. And then you've got the kind of sneaking elements of leaning out behind, bins and whatever to make sure you're not seen, and interacting with humans right here that sometimes are very vulnerable and, cause some sympathy within you, and sometimes are very aggressive and intimidate you. And
you just shoot them regardless.
Yeah, I do. I'm a monster in this game. I should put that that bit of information out there. And just when you combine all of that together, you just have this brilliant, somewhat sandbox, somewhat directed kind of experiment that just feels solid and it works. And I wouldn't necessarily go back to Boneworks' campaign, because I don't think it was so brilliantly designed that it really gave me encounters that I'd really want to do again, save for a few levels, which I think were really special. And I don't want to go back to Alex's campaign, mainly because I've done it 3 times and I feel like I've done everything you could possibly do in that game. But if you told me that tomorrow that Saints and Sinners was releasing on some other VR platform, or that there's more DLC or whatever, I'd be back in a flash. And I really hope we see Skydance's next game soon. I think there's probably going to be more updates for The Walking Dead. I don't know, but I would really like them to move on to something like, think about when we played Legendary Tales, and if they could get co-op into another Walking Dead game, oh my god, that would be incredible. And if they can make it bigger and longer and more ambitious and fix the human AI, which isn't very good, I would be in another world. I just love this game. And even when you bring it into the realm of flat screen gaming, where obviously things have been a lot more polished and a lot more nailed down in terms of how you should design it for a long time now, this contends in that arena in my mind too as well. So lots of hyperbole for it, but I stand by it.
That's awesome. I think that's really promising and exactly what everyone kind of wanted to hear. And I think people are just itching to get in there and play it. Really,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite. From what I said earlier about Unplugged and Demio being basically my favorite games, I like the smaller scaled stuff. But I can clearly see, even though I wouldn't go back and play this, I can clearly see that this is the strongest contender for best VR game now, thanks to everything that you've kind of said,
Thanks to
the
the
whole
updates,
package of it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it really underscores that after, I mean, if you were playing VR and paying attention to VR back then, it went like November 2019, there was Boneworks. January 2020, there was Walking Dead. And then end of March was Alex. And so I came off Boneworks, I came off Saints and Sinners, and I went into Alex. And I always remember in the first or second corridor in Alex, there's a gap to jump. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just double back and I'll pick up that ladder I saw, put it over it, and walk back, and that's really cool. And then I walked back, and the ladder didn't move at all; it was baked into the environment. And I immediately thought, okay, it's that kind of game, and that enables Alex to be a better, more tightly designed shooter, and in a lot of people's eyes, very validly the best VR game out there. But for me, way more about the kind of weird, trippy uppy experimental stuff that we're getting to see with Saints and Sinners and Aftershocks. And if you haven't played it at all, what are you waiting for? It's great on every platform it's on.
It's not scary either, like genuinely.
No, it's not.
It's just more like overwhelming, I would say.
Yeah.
It's just, they move so slowly towards you. It's more you have to think tactically, like, what am I gonna use next? So, I'm not really one for horror games. I know some of you guys in the chat said that you're too scared to play it. I'd say give it a go. Like if you can try it around a friend's house or whatever, give it a go, and I think you'd be brought round to it.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any there maybe in the intro and maybe once or twice in the campaign there's a jump scare, but not like a bah, more like a oh, that thing just fell in front of you. You know what I mean.
Exactly.
The jump scares
exactly
might come every once in a while if you poke your head around a corner and you see a zombie right there. You're like, oh, but then that's not like a scripted thing half the time. There's not much in terms of scripted horror in the game. It might just happen as an accident. But we talk about, again, this is something we mentioned almost week in, week out. I'm a huge coward when it comes to VR horror. I screamed my lungs off at Resident Evil 7, and I didn't manage to get all the way through the game in VR solely. But I find Saints and Sinners entirely manageable.
Oh, Daniel, you found it pretty scary still. Well, I don't know if this may
Daniel.
be a factor.
We didn't mean to be denouncing you, sorry.
No, I don't know if this is a factor or not, but I played it while Jamie was in the room and I was talking to him while playing it. However, I guess if you're really in there and immersed, then I could definitely see myself being scared. I am a warrior, thank you.
Here's another thing to say about it is you do get a tutorial that will show you just how good the melee mechanics are before you get into any of the scary stuff. So if you're just hesitant about pressing start to see what it's all about, you can do the first 10 minutes of the game will show you some of the coolest stuff about it without any scares whatsoever. Like the zombies are caught in
in
tires
barrels
and stuff like that. They won't be getting you. So that's a thing to point out. No
hey,
problem,
Daniel, it's okay because I'm a big girl too. There's no shame. But thank you so much for your super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Hopefully you can go back and maybe give it another go. Don't know. If you paid for it, it's quite a hefty game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. And now, once you get through to it's a good idea to have not already completed it, because now you can get to the end, and then there's a bunch more content thanks to Aftershocks.
Cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us, right?
Yeah. I don't have any other surprise reviews to throw at you.
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us this week. It's been really fun. You can check out everything that we've spoken about, whether it's news or the reviews or our Unplugged preview over at UploadVR.com. And join us every Thursday for the VR Gamescast. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully, see you next week. Same time, same place.
Thanks, team. Good show, everyone. Take a load off. Take it easy.